Hey, what's going on, guys? So in this video, we're going to be creating a RESTful API with authentication using Laravel 8 and Laravel Sanctum for access tokens. So basically, we're going to have a CRUD API. We're going to be able to create, read, update, delete, and search products. And then we're going to implement authentication towards the end so that we can basically log in, send a request to a login route, get an access token, and then use that access token to access protected routes, such as being able to create a product, update, delete a product. All right, so even if you don't have much experience with Laravel, that's fine. I'm going to explain things as we go, talk about routes, controllers, models, artisan, and all the basics of Laravel. All right, so let's get started here. So this is the Laravel Sanctum documentation. We're going to come back to this a little later. Authentication will be the last thing we do. I am using Postman to work with the API to send requests, so you can use that, or you can use Insomnia or some other tool that you like for HTTP requests. And then, of course, you need PHP installed, so get that installed on your system, as well as Composer, which is the package manager or dependency manager for PHP. That's how we're going to set up our Laravel site. And then as far as a database, you can use whatever you want. I'm going to be using SQLite in this video just because it's easy to set up and it doesn't require any of you guys to install MySQL or Postgres. And I have this SQLite browser tool on my system so I can see what's in my SQLite databases, but you don't need to install this. All right, so I'm going to open up my terminal, and like I said, you need to have Composer installed. So let's say Composer and then create-project, and this is a Laravel project, so we want to say Laravel/Laravel, and then whatever we want to call this folder that we're going to create, which I'm going to call Laravel Sanctum-API. And that should just generate a new project for us. And let's go ahead, and once that's done, we'll CD into that folder. And I'm going to open up VS Code in that folder. Okay, so now you can see I have all the folders and files on the side here. Now, before I do anything in VS Code, I'm going to run the server. So basically, Laravel comes with a really handy CLI called Artisan, and it allows you to create controllers, models, migrations. You can prototype things really quickly. It also has a dev server. So if we run PHP artisan and then serve, that should start our application on localhost 8000. So if we were to go to a browser now and go to HTTP localhost, let's go to localhost port 8000, and you should see just the Laravel landing page here. Now, we're not building a web app with views, we're building an API, so we're not really going to be working in the browser. We're going to be working with Postman. So let's get back into VS Code here. And first thing we'll do is just set up our database. So if we go to our .env file here, you can see all the different environment variables. Right here, DB connection, the default is MySQL. And if you want to use MySQL, that's actually absolutely fine. Just make sure that you have the correct information here. I'm going to go ahead and use SQLite. So let's say SQLite, and we should be able to just get rid of these 3 lines here and save. Now we do need to create the database file, so inside this folder called database, we'll create a file called database.sqlite. And that should be all we need to do to get set up, and we should be able to work with that database. And like I said, if you want to use Postgres or MySQL or SQL Server, that's fine. So now let's open up the routes folder, and there's a web.php. This is basically for your web app if you were using views, if you were using, for instance, the Blade template engine. You can see this is a GET request to the index page, and it returns that welcome view. That's actually what we saw in the browser. Now, we're not dealing with views. We're building an API. Our view would be some kind of front end, like a React front end or a mobile app or something like that. So we're using this routes API.php file. So in here, if we want, we can create a route by saying route and then : whatever the method, in this case a get, so HTTP method of get, and let's say /products. Now, since we're in the API.php file, this route is actually API/products. and then we can have a function, and let's put our semicolons. I'm probably going to forget semicolons here and there because I don't use them in JavaScript anymore. But what we can do in this function, let's just return, we'll just return a string and say just products. So now if I go to Postman, I should be able to make a request, a GET request to, I actually have it right here. So localhost 8000 API products, GET request, and you can see I get a 200 response and I get my product string. All right, so that's how we can create routes. Now, ultimately, we're not going to want to have our, our logic in here. We're going to have controllers for that, or a controller. But for now, we're just kind of messing with things. I'm just trying to, show you step by step. So as far as MVC goes, which is the model view controller design pattern that Laravel uses, you have models, and I know a lot of you guys know this, but you have models for your data, dealing with your database. You have controllers, which will take in requests and send out responses and call the model when you want to work with data. And then you have the view, which is the user interface, which in this case we don't have. The view would be something else, React or Vue. And I might even do a video where we add a front end to this. But right now we're just dealing with an API. So first thing I want to do here is, or the next thing I want to do is create a model for our products, because we're going to want a table in our database called products with an ID, a name, whatever we want to add. So we can use artisan for that. So let's say PHP artisan, and we want to make model, and I'm going to call this product, and then I'm going to add -- migration because I want to create a migration file. And in that file, we'll have all the different columns or fields that we want. This isn't going to actually create the database table yet. It's just going to create the migration file and the model. So you can see model created successfully, also created migration. So if you look over here, the app folder, there's a models folder with a product.php. So that's our product model. So we don't need to do anything with that right now, but let's go into database and go into migrations. And you can see that there's actually some other migrations too. So there's a create users table, password reset. This is just stuff that comes by default with Laravel. This one is the one we just created, the create products table. So a migration it's a class with two methods, up and down. Basically, up is what's going to run when you run the migration. In this case, it's going to create a products table. It's going to create an ID and some timestamps. And down, so if we were to roll back or reverse the migration, it would just drop the products table. Now, I want to change this because obviously we don't just want an ID and timestamps. That would be kind of weird. We want at least like a name. So let's say table, and we'll make this a string. So table string, we'll call this name. And then let's copy that down a couple times. And so we'll have a name. Let's do a description, and we'll make the description nullable, so it's optional. And then let's do a price, and the price will make that, let's say, decimal. And the documentation will have all the different types. And I'm just going to add 5 here, so we're going to have 2 decimal places. And I think let's just keep it simple for now. We'll just do that. Actually, we'll add a slug. So a slug, just a URL friendly version of the name. So let's save that, and our migrations are ready to run. So we actually want to run all of these, even the ones that Laravel included by default. So let's just clear this up, and we can run PHP artisan, and then we want to do just migrate. All right, so you can see here, looks like it was successful. If you do see any error messages here, it's probably because you put the wrong password for your database, or screwed something up in the migration. So just look at the error message if you have any issues. Now, we should have those tables in our database. I'm going to go ahead and open up my little SQLite tool here, this DB browser, and just open up my database so I can just go ahead and navigate to it. So I believe it's in dev, Laravel. database, right here, database SQLite, and you can see we have a bunch of tables. We have a users table, migrations. These are stuff that this stuff comes with Laravel. The products is the one we just created. And I apologize, I don't know how to make this bigger so you can see it. But we have products with an ID field, a name, slug, description, price, created at, updated at. All right, so we know that that was created. Now to add something to it, let's create a route here. So we'll make this a post request, and let's make it to /products, and let's have a function. And in here, let's go ahead and return. Now, actually, before we do this, let's put that on hold. I just want to bring the model in first. So up here, we can say use app, and it's going to be /models, / and then whatever we called the model, in this case, product. And then we can use that. So for instance, in this GET request, let's return, let's say return from our model, and our model has a whole bunch of methods on it. Let's call all, which will actually just obviously get all of the products. All right, so we'll save that. And now if I make a GET request to the same one we made before, to API products, I'll just get an empty array. Obviously, you know, we don't have anything in there, but we got a 200 response, which is good. Now to create a product, let's go into this post request and let's return from here product, and let's say create. And then inside create, we should be able to add an array. We'll add some brackets, and let's say name. So name, we're going to set that to product 1. And yeah, and then we'll do, what else do we have? A slug, and we'll set that to just like product -1. And then a description. So description, I'll just say this is product 1. And then what else do we have? A price. So price, we'll set that to, I don't know, $99.99, and save. Now, if I try to make a post request, I'm going to open up a new tab here in Postman, make a post request to this same URL, same endpoint, and I'm going to get this error that says add name to fillable property to allow mass assignment. So basically, I can't add a name, I can't add any fields unless I specify that in my model. So if we go into app models product.php, what we have to do is add a fillable, or let's say protected, so a protected property of fillable. And that's just an array of strings of fields that we can add, like the name, the slug, what else? Description, and whoops, and the price. So we want to add those as fillable fields. And there's other stuff you can put in here, like you can do protected table. So if your table isn't called products, you could specify, maybe you called it my _ products or something like that. So you can specify, you know, things like that. And it's all in the documentation. But now that I've added that in the model, we should be able to then make this request, and you can see we get back the new product. And if I go over to my GET request and send, I should have one in there. And even if we look in our database here, I should be able to see products, browse table, and you can see there's, it's really small, but it says product 1. So we have all of our fields in our database. And if you want to use, if you're using Postgres, you can use pgadmin or phpMyAdmin, whatever, and check your database. All right, so now we obviously don't want to keep doing this. We want to have a controller where we take in a request and we take the data in instead of just hard coding it. So let's generate a controller. So let's go down here and say PHP artisan make controller, and we're going to call this product controller. Now I could just run this and it would create the file and the class, but I wanted to create a set of methods that are basically just CRUD methods: create, read, update, and delete. So we can add -- API, and it should add those for us. It won't add the actual functionality, but it'll add the methods. So if we now go into, let's see, we can close that. So if we go into app HTTP controllers, you'll see a product controller. And here's the first method, index. This displays a listing of the resource. There's nothing in it. Well, we're going to add that ourselves, but it created basically like a shell for us. Store is for creating. Show is for getting one resource or one product in our case. Update and destroy. We're also going to add a search. So let's start off here by bringing our model in, just like we brought here. In fact, we don't need this in our route anymore. So I'm just going to cut that out and bring it into our controller. And then just exactly what we did here in this route where we said return, product all, I'm going to cut that as well and put that right in the index because that's what we want to happen here. Okay, so we'll save that. Now, in order to hook this index method up to the route, we can simply, instead of doing function, we can put in some brackets, and we need to bring in our controller now. So up here, let's say use, and it's going to be app /http /controllers / and then product controller, like that. And then we should be able to go here and say product controller : class, and then the second value here is going to be the method, which in our case is going to be index. All right, so let's comment this post out for a second. And again, this is just going to map this route to this method in this controller. So let's save that. And let's see, what's this? So I forgot to wrap that. All right, so this should do the same thing. If we go back to Postman and send, we're now getting our products just like we were before, except it's happening in the controller. We're not, fetching it right from the route, which is what we want. Now for the post request for the store or the create right here, we're gonna, let's see, we can actually, wait a minute, what am I doing? Let's uncomment this for a second. I'm going to grab that and put that in here because we're going to be doing a create, except we don't want to hard code this stuff in here. What we can do is get it from the request, which is actually passed in. Okay, so when we send a request and we add body data, it's going to come in through here. So we should be able to add in create and then request all, like that, because we're going to send anything that's allowed that we send should get put in here and created. So let's save that. Let's go back to our routes here and let's get rid of this function and pass in some brackets, and we're going to do the same thing and say product controller class and then the method that we're using, which is going to be store. Okay, so we'll save that and just double check that. I think, yeah, that should be good. So let's go back into Postman and to our post request. Now, if I just send as is, we get this weird error because we don't have our fields. They're required, and I'm going to show you how to do a much better response than this. And when you do a post request or a put or anything like that, you're going to want to put in your headers when you're using Laravel the accept key, and then for the value here is going to be application /JSON. All right, now in the body, let's go ahead and add, let's see, at this xwww form URL encoded. You could also do raw JSON, but this is easier. So let's do a name. And we'll say product 1, and what else do we have? A slug. Let's say product dash. Actually, this would be product 2, not 1. So let's do 2, and then we have what else? A description, which will say this is product 2, and then finally a price, and we'll say, I don't know, $299.99. Okay, so if I go ahead and send, you'll see I'll get back the new product. And if I go back to my GET request here and send, I should have 2 products total. Now, for the validation, like let's say we don't send this data, so we get this ugly message, which you obviously don't want to show this, in production. So what we can do is go back to our store method here, and we should be able to just say request validation, and in here we can pass in an array of what we want to validate. So let's say we want the name to be required, and you can do other types of validation as well. Name required, let's say slug is going to be required, and price is going to be required. All right, so just doing that, it should give us a better message. So let's go back here and send. Validation doesn't exist. Did I do? Oh, I'm sorry, it's validate, not validation. Makes more sense anyway. So validate, let's send, and now we get back a nice formatted message. The given data was invalid. We have each error for each field, so you definitely want to do that. And if you don't have that accept key right here, let me just take that off and send. You get back just the Laravel landing page, and I'm not sure why, but we have to add that. So make sure you have that accept. All right, now next we have the just getting the single resource. So for that, we're going to return. We're going to take our product model, and we're going to find and see how the ID's passed in to the show method. We could just find by the ID. So pretty simple. We can just use this right here and just say get product /2, and that didn't work, and that's because I didn't create the route. Now I just want to show you, instead of, if you just have a basic CRUD application with just these methods, you can actually use a resource instead of putting all these single routes. Later on, we're going to need these because we need to kind of separate them out for authentication. But for now, let's just comment this out and ignore it. And I'm going to say route : resource. And in here, we can say products. So products is our resource. And then we should be able to just put in here our product controller class, like that. And I believe that now it'll give us all of our routes. In fact, we can check our routes down here. So if we do, and we can say PHP artisan route, we should be able to do route : list. And now you can see all the different routes we have. So we have a GET request to API products that will call the index method. Post request will call store. We have a GET request to products / and then the product or ID that'll call show, and so on. So if you just have a basic CRUD API, you can just use this instead of doing all your separate routes. So now that should work. If we go back and we say API products 2, now we get product 2. All right, cool. So next thing, let's do our update. So if we go to our controller and go to update. Now I want to first of all get the product and then update it and then return it. So let's say product, and let's set that to product find, and we want to find by the ID, right? So that will get it. Now we can take that product and we can update that to, we want to pass in our request, and we want to pass in, or we want to call all. So that will update it. Then we just want to return it. So we'll return the product. So now I should be able to go and do a put request. So I'll open up a new tab. I'm going to, let's see. Actually, you know what? Let's duplicate the post. So we'll duplicate that. so that we have this in the body. And I'm just going to update the price to, let's say, $199 for product 2. So in the here we have to use a put request, and it's going to be product/2 because that's what we want to update, and we're updating the price. So let's send that, and now you can see the price is now $199. If I go back here to my GET request and I send, my price is $199. All right, so the update is done. Now we just want to do the delete or the destroy. So for the destroy, that's going to be pretty simple. We're just going to do product : destroy and pass in the ID, and that should do it. Actually, let's return. I think it returns a 1 if it's deleted or a 0 if it's not, but let's try that out. So I'm actually going to create another product just to delete. So in my post request here, let's open these up, and we'll just call this, we'll just change the name here to test and send. So that's test. It has the ID of 3. If I go to my GET request, you'll see, actually we want to get all of our products. So you'll see 3 test. Now I'm going to go over to, we'll just do the update. We'll change this to delete, and we're going to delete 3 and send. We get back a 200 response. We get a 1 back. And if I go back to the GET request and send, you'll see now there's only 1 and 2. So product 3 has been deleted. All right, so we have a CRUD API now, create, read, update, and delete. I do want to just add a search method here. So let's just copy this whole thing, this delete or destroy, and let's say this will search for a name, and it's going to have a param of name, which is going to be a string. It's going to return a response, and then let's change destroy to search, and instead of an ID, it's going to take in a name. And then instead of destroy, we're going to say where. So we're able to do this where and then get. And you can put in a condition here, like where the name is equal to the name. Now this, if we do it like this, it's going to have to match exact, which I don't want, because you might type in part of a product name and you still want to get that back. So we're going to have to use a like query here. So we just pass in a second argument of like, and then here we have to concatenate on, we're going to use the % like that, and then concatenate name. Basically what we're saying is if it starts with whatever name is, and then also it can end with it as well, so it can be anywhere within it. All right, so let's save that. Now we do need to create that route. That's not included in the resources. So what I'll do is just paste this in, and let's say this is for the search method, and this is for product/search/ and then we want to pass in a name. So let's save that, and let's go back to Postman. Now both of our products are called product 1 and product 2, so let's create a new one, and we'll call it let's call it iPhone 12, and we'll change the slug to iPhone 12, and change this, change the price, that's way too low. So let's send that. All right, so now we have an iPhone 12 field, and what I want to do is search for that. So I'm going to go back to the first tab here, and you can see that that's in here. It's ID 4, and I should be able to make a GET request to /search/ and then I can type in anything here, like let's just do IPH and send, and you'll see I get back my results which has the iPhone 12. If I do, let's say, search PRO and send, I should get product 1 and product 2 because that matches the name. All right, so now we can search. But let's just put this back to products. Good. So I think now we're ready to do the authentication with Sanctum. So let's head over to the documentation, and there's a few things we need to do. So first of all, we need to install it with Composer, and then we need to Need to publish the Sanctum configuration and migration files, and then migrate. All right, so let's install it first. So I'm gonna close everything out right now and just open up my console here, and let's say composer require Laravel / Sanctum. So that should install the package. If you look in your composer.json, you should see that right here. Then what we want to do is the migration. So I'm going to grab that from the documentation right here. Let's just grab that, paste that in. So that should have created the migration. Let's check it out. So if we go in database migrations, and just make this a little bigger. So this right here, create personal access tokens. This is the migration that was created. So basically it's going to create a new table in the database called personal access tokens, and it will have all these fields. Now we have to obviously migrate. So let's say PHP artisan migrate, and that should add it to the database. In fact, we can check it out right here. Let's see, I have to reload this. You can see our products, personal access tokens. So there is a table now. Obviously there's no tokens, but there is a table for it now. Okay, now let's see. Let's go back to the docs. Now we need to add this right here. If you plan to authenticate a single page application, you should add Sanctum's middleware. So we are going to do that. And this is going to be in the kernel.php file. So I'm going to grab this and go into my app folder. So it's app http kernel.php. And you want to go down to where you have your middleware groups and this API. And I'm just going to replace that. So basically just added this to it. And we'll save that. And we should be all set. I think we're all set to start creating like our register and stuff. Overriding default models. Oh, we do have to add a couple lines to the user model. Where is it? Yeah, right here. So this line, use Laravel Sanctum, has API tokens. We just want to put that in our user model and then add it here. So let's go to our user model, which is right here, and we're going to just add that line, and then we're going to add right here has API tokens, and then I think we should be good. Let's just see what else we got here. Token abilities, yeah, so we can create the token. I'm going to create my own register and log in and log out. Okay, so to protect the routes, we do this. Route middleware. But should we do that now? Let's see. Yeah, I guess we can do that now. So this right here, I'm going to grab that, and let's go to our routes file, our routes API. And I'm going to paste this in. So basically, we should be able to protect. We don't need the request. Let's just get rid of that and get rid of this. And let's say we wanted to protect the search route right here. So we could take that. I'm not going to actually keep this protected, but I'll just copy it and comment it out and put it in here. And now it should be protected. So if I save that, and now I try to go make a search. So remember /search, and I'll just say /test, and I get not found. So route middleware, auth. Oh, wait, this isn't what we want. You know what? I don't think this is right. Because this is just for /user. You know what we're going to do is get rid of this and use a group. So let's say route group. And inside here, we're going to pass in some brackets with middleware. Is that what I did? Yeah, middleware. And then some brackets, and then in here we want to do auth :sanctum, and then we have our function. Yeah, wait, that's not right. What did I mess up here? Group, that shouldn't be there. All right, let's try that. So if we go back and I try to do a search, and I'm going to get this weird error just because I didn't send the accept header. So we want to say accept, and we want that to be application/JSON, send, and there we go. So I get a message that says unauthenticated. So that's how we can protect our routes, is basically just put them in here. So let's say protected routes, and then up here, let's say public routes. So we'll do that. Now we have these I'm going to get rid of the search because that's not protected. That's a public route. But we have these resources here, the resource routes, so we're going to have to break these up a little bit. So I'm going to comment that out, and I guess I'll just put that up here so you guys have it. But here we want to basically break those all up. We already have the index and store ones here. Now the index is public, so we'll take that and put that up with the public routes, uncomment it. The store, we're going to put that in the protected routes, okay, because that's our post request. Only authenticated users should be able to do that. Okay, and then what else do we have? We have our show, so we can copy this down. This is going to be our show. It's going to be products / and then whatever the ID. What else do we have? We have our update and delete, which are going to be protected. And I know we don't have our login or register or anything yet, but I'm just adding the routes and protecting them. So this is going to be a put. So put request to products ID, and that's going to call the update like that. And then we have our delete or destroy. So destroy is going to get called when we call a delete request. So a delete request to products / ID. Yeah, so that looks good. So all of these are protected. You need a token to be able to do these, and these aren't. So if I go back and I try to create a new post right here, let's say, I don't know, test product, test product, this is a test. Now if I try to send this, I get unauthenticated. If I go to my GET request, I should be able to do that because that's a public route. So send, and I can get all my products. I just can't add one. All right, so now let's start to do the authentication. Now we're going to need a new controller for this. So let's create a new controller. We'll say PHP artisan make controller, and we want to make a controller called auth, or you can call it user controller, whatever. And that's it. We're not going to like generate API methods or anything. And then let's go into our new controller. So app HTTP controllers auth controller. And we're going to create a public, let's say public function register. And this will take in, let's say, request, and then a request variable. Now I do need to bring a couple things in here. One is going to be the user model. So we'll say use app models models user. And then I'm also going to bring in response, so I can create a custom response. And then also we need to hash passwords. So we're going to use bcrypt, which comes from I think it's illuminate, and then support facades hash, and we should be able to use bcrypt. All right, so in here, let's get the body from the response and validate it and put it into a variable called fields. So we'll say fields set that to request and then validate. And in here we'll pass in some brackets, let's say name, so the user will have a name, and that name is going to be required, and it's going to be a string. And then let's do an email. So email will be required string, and also it should be unique. So let's say unique, but we need to specify it's unique to the user's table and the email field. And then what else? Password. So the password is going to be required string, and let's say confirmed. And what that'll do is it'll make it so you have to send a password underscore confirm, a confirmation field as well. So now let's create the user. So we'll say user equals the user model create, and then pass in here we want some brackets, and then for the name that's going to equal, or that's going to be the fields. So fields name, so whatever is passed in, and then the email is going to be the fields email, and then we have the password. Now the password has to be hashed, so here we're going to call bcrypt and then pass in fields password, like that. All right, so that'll create the user. Now, let's see, let's just take a look at this. So to create our token, let's say token and set that. And now on user, we should have this create token, which takes in like a key, or just, this could be anything. Let's say my app token. And then we want to get the plain text token. So that should give us the token. Now as far as the response, let's set a variable called response, and we're going to set that to have the user, so the user information in it, which is going to be the fields, no, not the fields user, the user from the database, so just user, and then the token. So the token is going to be just that token variable that was created. Yeah, so that's our response. Now that just puts it in a variable. We want to return response and pass in our response variable, and let's make it a 201, which is just, you know, everything's successful and something was created. So I think that's correct. So we have to create a route for this. So I'm just going to grab, it's going to be a post request, so I'll just grab this, and it's going to be public, obviously, because it's a register, and it's going to call the register method in the auth controller. So we want to change this from product controller to auth controller and set this to post/register. Now we do have to bring the auth controller in, so up here, let's copy this down and set this to auth controller. So we'll save that. Let's go into Postman, and we'll make a post request to HTTP. Let's see, I think I have it down here. So it's just API/register, not auth register. And in the headers, we want to add an accept, and we want to accept application JSON. Now, if I send without any body data, I'm going to get this error here. The given, what's it say? My coffee's in the way. The given data was invalid. We have each error for each field. So let's go ahead and add our fields. So we want to register with a name. I'll just say Brad, and then for email, I'll use brad@gmail.com, and then password, let's say 123456. Now if I try to send this, it's still going to give me an error because I need a password confirmation. So password underscore confirmation, and now if I send that, you can see I get back the user with my user info here and my token. Okay, so this token I should be able to use to access protected routes, such as the add a new product. So what I'll do is copy this, and go to my post here, remember without a token, if I send, I get unauthenticated. So if I go to authorization and choose bearer token, there's already a token in there. Let's paste this one in and send, and I was able to create that test product. All right, so if this token is wrong, like if I put a 1 on it and I send, it's going to be unauthenticated. So I need to use this particular token. Now when you log out, you want to delete the token because they do get stored in the database. So let's create a logout function real quick, which should be pretty easy. So let's say public function logout, and let's say request variable request. And to log out, we just do this auth. So we can do auth user and tokens, so we can get all the any user token that that particular user has, and we can then delete those tokens. And then as far as a response, let's just return, we'll just return I don't know, message. So whoops, message, let's say, you can say like token destroyed. We'll just say logged out. All right, so we'll try that. So I'm going to, remember we have this token here. Now the logout, I keep forgetting to create the routes. Logout is going to be authenticated, right, or protected, because we only want to access it if we're authenticated. So let's do route post logout, auth controller, and call logout. All right, now if I go back here, I'm going to just open up a new tab. And actually, I'll use the one I registered. No, yeah, I'll use this one, I guess. We'll just uncheck these. And we don't have an authorization token in there in the authorization right now. So let's just try it. API/logout. It should give me unauthenticated. Now, if I go to my authorization and I put in bearer token and I put in my token, that's not it. Let me just grab. I think this was it. All right, so if I put my token in here, okay, that was the same one, but let's go ahead and send, and now I'm logged out. So with that token, I shouldn't be able to now create a new product because I'm logged out. That token no longer exists. So even with the token in here, if I try to send this new product, it's unauthenticated. Okay, so we're able to register, we're able to log, or I'm sorry, we're able to, yeah, register and log out. Now we want to log in. So let's actually copy the whole register here, because a lot of it is similar. And let's paste it right underneath and change this to log in. And let's see, so to log in, we have our fields. We don't need the name, we just need the email and password. Now we're not creating a user here. We first want to do a check on the email, so we'll just say check email. And let's say user equals, and user ::, we'll say where. I do need a little help from my cheat sheet here. So we'll say where the email is equal to fields email, and we want to do this first. Even though it's unique and there shouldn't be more than one of the same email, we just want to get the first one. So that will check the email. Let's just push this over a little bit. All right, so that'll check the email. Now for the password, let's say check password. And this is going to be inside of an if statement. So first we want to check if no user, because if there's no match here, if there's no email match, this user won't exist. We also want to check for a wrong password. So let's say if not, and we're going to run this through hash, because obviously the hash check, because the password in the database is hashed. And let's say the fields password, so whatever the user tries to type in, we want to match that against the user from the database password, and that will give us, you know, if this is not true and this is not true, that means it's a bad login. So in this case, let's say return a response. You don't have to use this response, it just formats it nicely, but we'll just pass this in here, and let's put a message and say, we'll just say bad creds, and then let's add a 401, which is an unauthorized status. Whoops. All right, so if the email matches here, the user will get put here. If it doesn't match the password, we're going to get a response. And then if both of these pass, it's going to keep going. It's going to create the token and the same response as when we registered. All right, so let's try to log in now with the brad@gmail or whatever you used. So I'm going to go back to, let's see, this is the logout. I'm going to change this to login. And again, I forgot the route, so this is going to be a public route. So I'll just copy down register, login. This is going to call login. And let's see, so we have login. We'll get rid of this token here. That's no good anyway. Get rid of that. We don't need anything here. And then body, let's add email, password. So I'm going to try with the wrong password first. Remember, I'm making a post request to log in, and I get email has been taken. Wait a minute, we shouldn't get that. Oh, you know why? Because I have unique right here, so we don't want this. And we don't want confirmed either, because remember, this is login, this is not registration. So just that should be fine. All right, so let's try that again. Undefined constant user. Undefined constant user. So right here, I forgot my $sign. All right, so last time, this should work. Sorry about that. Oh, it's all falling apart towards the end. So I get bad creds, good, and I should have a 401 unauthorized. Now if I change the password to be correct, I should get the correct response, which is the user, which is the token. I can then use that token to do things like, let's say, delete a product right here, delete product 3. If I send it without the token, I get unauthenticated, but if I put in the bearer token, pass that in and send, that should have deleted it. So I don't get that unauthenticated. Actually, I might have already deleted that one. So let's see, ID 3 should not be there. It's not. All right, so that should do it. We basically have a CRUD API, create, read, update, delete. We can search. We have token authentication, so you can log in, get a token, or register and get a token, and then use that to access any protected routes that are in here. Okay, so anything you want to protect, you just simply put the route inside of here, and then you log out, and that'll trash the token so that it can't be used anymore. So, you know, this video, I'm not sure how long it is, probably about an hour or so, but we did a lot in that amount of time. So Laravel is pretty powerful. You can do things pretty quickly, but hopefully you guys enjoyed this, and hopefully it was clear. I know it was a little hectic towards the end, or maybe it wasn't. Maybe I'm just thinking that, but that's it, guys. Thanks for watching. I appreciate it, and I'll see you next time.